Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayemi, KIDDUSHIN DAF Yud Zayin. We are holding at the fifth line from the top of the Amid. Amar, Mar, let's go back and review what we learned yesterday. So, the Eved who escaped, he has to come back and make up his lost time. Right, because he was committed to a 6-year term. What if he was unable to work? He didn't run away, but he fell ill, and he couldn't do work for part of those 6 years. Does he have to make up for lost time? No. Once his 6 years are up, 7th year comes along, he goes free. Afilu chala kol sheish. So even if he was unwell for the entire 6 years, he didn't work even a bit. But it was beyond his control. He's not at fault. 6 years are up, he goes free. But we have a brisa which says, no, it's not so simple. Chala shalish vavad shalish. If he worked for 3 years and he was unwell for 3, so he gave you at least 50% of your investment. In that case, he doesn't have to make up for lost time, but if he wasn't working for the entire 6 years, then he has to make that up. And here we say that even if he was chala kol sheish, he's pata omrav sheish, it depends. If he's totally disabled, then he has to make it up. But the other brisa was speaking that he was at least doing some easy, some mending or some easy work. In which case, as Rashi says, ultimately he did something. The avad le malacha, he worked something. So, the fact that his illness confined him to that simple work, is not his fault. So he fulfilled his obligation. He served you for 6 years, but if he was totally out of it, he didn't give you any service, then we say, well, if that went on for the entire 6 years, he owes you one. He has to make up for lost time. Okay, so he runs away and you catch him, of course he has to make up for lost time. What about chala? So if he's totally out of it, he's not doing anything, and even a stitch of work, then we say he has to make up. If he was chala kol sheish, he has to make up. But if he was working even a bit during that time, then it's done. Now we seem to have a stira within the brisa itself. Look, haguf akash. If you look closely at the words of the brisa, there seems to be an inherent verbal contradiction. Amr's first we say, chala shalish, v'avad shalish, ein chayiv lahashlam. And so this is the brisa where he wasn't working anything, not even a stitch. But we say, look, if he worked for 3 years, even though he was chala for the other 3, that's enough. Ein chayiv lahashlam. That's sufficient, right? Let's make it diuk. That's because he was only sick for 3. Ha-arba, if he was chala through 4 years, so most of his time he was out, chayiv lahashlam, he has to make it up. Emo seifa. Let's move on to the next part of the brisa. Chala kol sheish chayiv lahashlam, where we say, look, if his condition, if his illness took over the entire 6-year term, then he has to go compensate his owner. Let's make it dik. Hodalad ein chayiv lahashlam. But if it was only for 4 years, then he's done. And a minute ago we learned that chala for 4 years is chayiv lahashlam. Hachika amar, that's exactly what the brisa meant to say. Chala dalad. If he was chala for 3 years and he worked for 3, okay. But if he was sick for 4 years, nasa kimisha chala kol sheish v'chayiv lahashlam. That's like if he was sick for the entire 6 years, because 4 out of 6, it's almost the whole. Then we say he has to make it up. So bottom line, barach. This we learned yesterday. If you ran away midterm and you got a hold of him, he has to make up for lost time. But chala, well, he's exempt, provided it was either only half the term, 3 years, or even if it was more, but he was involved in some sort of menial work, some sort of minimal, oisim masamachat, something, in which case that suffices. Tanu Rabbanon. Now we finally go and address the concept of ha'anaka, which was mentioned many times, which basically means that the master will provide some sort of severance package, some sort of parting gift to his loyal slave or maidservant. We're speaking about an Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave or a Jewish maidservant. So what exactly is this? How much does he give him? We have a three-way machlikas. Tanu Rabban. Kama manikim loy. How much does he have to give him on his way out? Chamish slaim mikol min v'min. You see, the pasuk in describing the ha'anaka mentions 3 items. So the pasuk reads like this. This is in Devarim Tesvav pasuk Yudalad. Hanek tanik loy mitzayncha, from your livestock, migarnacha, from your grain, and mikvecha, from your grapes, from your wine. Asher berachacha, asher malikecha titen loy. You're giving him, from the abundance, the bracha that Hashem gave you. So give him part of it, share it with him on his way out. So according to Rabbi Meir, there are 3 minim, right? There are 3 types mentioned: Soin, Goyren, and Yekev. And you must give him 5 selah worth of each material. Chamish slaim mikol min v'min shehein, which gives you a total of how much? 15. Chamish esrei slaim di Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, it's actually double that much. Shleishim, you must give him a total of 30 selah worth of material, kishleishim shel eved, which corresponds to the number 30 given to the owner of an eved Knani who was struck down by an animal. So it's a payment, compensation for that, for the death of the eved. That's the amount that you give to the ha'anaka, to the eved ivri on his way out. What's the connection? Well, the Gemara later will explain why we're connecting the two. But in any case, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the amount is 30 and not 15. Rabbi Shimon Omer, he ups it even more. Chamishim. You must give him 50 selah worth. Ke chamishim shebe erchin, like the largest amount mentioned in the parsha of Erchin, where you commit to give to the Beis HaMikdash, the erech of plenty, the value, which the Torah determines to be considered the erech of this and this person, it's all based on age and gender. So the largest amount mentioned in that parsha is 50. That's how much you give the Eved. Amar, let's go back and review the 3 shittas. Rabbi Meir holds chamish slayim mikol min v'min. It's 5 of each type, which is a total of 15. Shem chamish esrei slayim di Rabbi Meir. The question is, 5, and 5 is 15. V'Rabbi Meir min yana as lashmin. What's the point of Rabbi Meir giving us the total of 15? We understand. 3 times 5 is 15. He's trying to teach us like this. The point is not so much 5 of each item. Mivtzar hu deloi mivtzar lei mehay min yana. The point is that ultimately, don't give him less than a total of 15. So the bottom line is what's important. But suppose he, took away from this and added to the other type, and gave a little more of the other type, 4 of this, 6 of that, that's okay. Less lamba, there's no issue. Because you still have a total of 15. My time with the Rabbi Meir, why is it that it's 15? Yolef reikam ibachar. In the parsha of Ha'anaka, it says, don't send him away empty-handed. So when the Eved leaves you because of, Yovel, or his 6-year term is up, don't send him away empty-handed. Give him something for the road. Give him something to keep him on his feet until he establishes himself. So we have Reikam over here, and we have Reikam by Pidyon Haben. When you redeem your firstborn, you give the 5 slime to the kohen. It says, V'choil b'choir b'necha sifte, v'lo yeiro panai Reikam. So we make that connection, Exer Shava. Yolaf Reikam mi b'choir, and we equate the numbers. We match them up. Ma'alahalan chamish slime, just like over there, it's a 5 selah fee. Avkan chamish slime, here as well. Asks the Gemara, okay, so maybe 5 in total. Why 15? Ve'ema chamish slime yikulu. Answer, Iksiv Reikam l'bas soiv keduka amrus. You see, if the pasuk would mention the word Rekam all the way at the end, after going through Goyrin and Tzayin and Yekev, it would say, give all those, then we could perhaps adopt your approach. That of all these items, make sure to give him something which corresponds to Rekam. Don't send him out empty-handed. Give him, 5 sela of anything. But the fact is that the Torah mentions Rekam before itemizing those 3, groups of materials. So therefore, we say like this: Shadi Rekam Atzoin. We apply Rekam, which is alluding to a 5 sela gift. We apply it to Tzoin, Rekam Agorin, on Gorin as well. Rekam Ayekev, likewise on Yekev. So it's 5, 5, and 5, a total of 15. V'neilaf Rekam Oilas Riya. I understand what we're meant to connect. Gzera Shava is not something which you invent. You makabel from your Rebbe, from Sinai. That this word Rekam is meant as a Gzera Shava. So you must connect it to some place, but perhaps connect it to a different context. The parsha of a oila, a carbon that you bring when you, oila regal to the Beis Hamikdash. V'neila for Rekam. Let's learn it to connect it to that parsha. Oilas Riya, which Rashi says doesn't have to cost you that much. It only costs you 2 coins. Take kesef. Let that be the amount of ha'anak. Amakra asher barach Hashem lekecha. A very crucial word, crucial phrase in the pasuk. Why are we giving him these gifts? Because Hashem blessed you. So basically, the Torah is telling you, look, you have a choice to minimize or to be generous. Take the generous route and go with the 15 instead of 5, instead of 2 kesef. So we choose the more, the Gzera Shava, which generates the larger amount rather than the smaller one. So according to our Meir, we're bound to this Gzera Shava Rekam from Bchar, 5 sela per item times 3, right? So it's 15. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shloishim. 30 is the amount, Kishloishim Shel Eved, matching to the amount of the knas that you pay upon killing an Eved. My time with Rabbi Yehuda, what's the connection? Yolaf Nesina. Nesina mi Eved, because according to him, the proper Gzera Shava is Nesina. In our story, we have Titan Loi, and by compensating for the lost Eved, it says Kesev Shloishim Shkolim Yitin Ladoinav, as Rashi brings. Mala Halan Shloishim, just like there it's the number 30, Afkan Shloishim, here as well it's 30. Question: V'neilaf Nesina Me'erchen. I understand that we're focusing on Nesina, but let's make the Gzera Shava to a word that's found in Erchen. We have V'nasa Nasa Erkecha B'yamahu, and there we say it's 50. Ma'ala Halam Chamishim, Afkan Chamishim. So just like over there we have 50. Here as well, let's do it 50. Says the Gemara, we can't do so for 2 reasons. Why? Chada, number 1, the tafasta beruba, tafasta. This is a universal rule. We don't choose the larger amount unless we can prove it. You have a choice. Should we go with the lesser or the greater amount? Tafasta beruba tafasta. Try to grab hold of the larger thing, and then perhaps you'll be proven wrong. Perhaps you overgrabbed. Tafasta more tafasta. If you choose the lesser amount, the smaller chiddush, then you have that confidence that at least maybe you could have added, but at least what you got is real, is legitimate. So basically, you have a choice between 30 or 50. We have no right to assume it's 50 unless you know for sure. So we go with the lesser amount. So that's one answer. V'oid eved me'eved havlei lemelaf. We prefer connecting, similar context. Hanukkah is an Eved related, topic, and we prefer to connect it to the Shloshim Shel Eved, which likewise is Eved related, as opposed to Erchen, which is unrelated to Avodim. Bottom line, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's 30 sela worth. Rabbi Shimon Omer, it's 50. Chamishim Shel Erchen. He does connect it to Erchen. My time with Rabbi Shimon, why? Gomer Sinem Erchen. He does make that connection to Erchen, Malhan Chamishim, Afkan Chamishim, just like there it's 50, here it's 50. Now, the question is, we have so many different numbers in Erchen. We have 5, 20, 50. Who says that we connect it to the highest amount within the possible erchen payments? Right? Perhaps go to the smallest amount of erchen. Answers the Gemara. Which is actually 3 slime. The smallest is 3 slime. So let him be the smallest share. It turns out that he's the biggest. Let it be the smallest of all the Tanaim. Let it be 3 sela. And we have a kasha, because we just finished saying that we have no right to go to the greater number if we have no substantiation, right? To do so. Answers the Gemara. No. Asher beirachacha Hashem elokecha ksef. Pasuk tells you, look, be generous. You're not giving your own thing. Hashem blessed you. Hashem gave you an abundance. Go ahead. Hashem, gave you enough for him too. So we opt the larger amount. Asks the Gemara, but v'neilaf nesina me'evet. It's fine. So within erchen we go to the greatest number, but why even go to erchen? Why not just do Rabbi Yehuda's connection to evet? Ma'ala halan shloishim, afkan shloishim, just like there, 30 here as well. And for 2 reasons, the same 2 reasons why Rabbi Yehuda, chose evet. Chada, number 1, tafasta merubah tafasta. We prefer going the lower route. Who says you can go and add great numbers if you have no right to do so? Take the lesser number. Likewise, it's a better matchup. Learn ha'anaka by evet from shloishim shel evet. Answer: Rabbi Shimon micha gomar. So Rashi explains, Ein adam don gzera shava mi'asma. A person does not invent his own gzera shava. And according to Rabbi Shimon, the gzera shava was not nasina, which would allow him to go to evet. No. It was actually a totally different word. Micha gomar. Yamuch, mach, micha. They mean poverty, that he was in dire financial straits. So by Eved we have that lashon. Why did he sell him? Why was he sold as an Eved to begin with? Right? He was in desperate straits. And by Erchen we also have a similar lashon, machu, if he's unable to pay, right? So that's the connection. That's the proper Gzera Shava. And therefore we get to the number 50, just like by Erchen. So bottom line, how much ha'anaka is required? Rabbi Meir says 15. He learns reikam from Bechor, which is 5 sela. Torah mentions 3 types of items that you give. So it's 3 times 5, 15. Rabbi Yehuda has a different Gzera Shava, Nesina from Eved. Shloishim there, Shloishim here. Rabbi Shimon says micha, 50 by Erchen, 50 here. Asks the Gemara, Bishleim el Rabbi Meir, Hainu d'chsiv, Tzoin, Goyren v'Yakev. So now, according to Rabbi Meir, it's fully understood why the pasuk mentions Tzoin, Goyren v'Yakev. 3 separate types of materials, because that's the point. You take the number 5 and you multiply it by 3 for a total of 15. El Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Shimon, Hai Tzoin, Goyren v'Yakev Lamali. Ultimately, as we're going to see in a minute, the point is you can give him whatever. Well, pretty much. Whatever. So, why does the Torah have to bother listing it for us? Tzoin, Goyren, and Yaakov. What's the point? Answers the Gemara, Haimi Boile, look at the Sanya, it's needed as follows. The Brisa says, Yachol lo yehu ma'anikan lo. Elamit Tzoin, Goyren, Yaakov. Perhaps this is exactly the way you're supposed to do it. You give him some Tzoin, some Goyren, some Yaakov, and it's either this or nothing. Menayin l'Rabbi is called davar. What about other types of gifts? Do they qualify? Yeah. Just give him as per Hashem's bracha to you. You're not limited to these items. So then what's the point of saying Tzoin, Goyren, Yaakov? To teach you as follows. To provide you with a formula of what goes and what doesn't. What's unique about these 3 items? Miyuchadim, they're special in a sense that they multiply, they increase. Sheyeshnan b'chlal bracha, right? They grow, they produce. Likewise, you want to give him something, it has to qualify. It has to have that criteria. And it has to be bichlal bracha. As opposed to what? What's something which is perhaps valuable now, but doesn't have that ability to multiply and to increase and to grow? Yotzuk safam, money. Money just sits the way it is. Remains unchanged. So that's not something you give him. Basically, what you're giving him is supposed to resemble the bracha that you received from Hashem. It's supposed to personify that. It's supposed to represent the concept of bracha as opposed to something which is stagnant. Divrei Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Omer, he gives you another example of what's excluded, what doesn't qualify, what's not called b'chlal bracha, yotzu predes. Mules. Mules can't produce offspring. But Rabbi Shimon, he disagrees. He says ksafim don't qualify, yet predes do. You know why? Predes mishapchen b'gufayu. Because, although they don't produce offspring, but they themselves can, with their goof, you can have a lot of gain, they can work your fields, etc. So they do qualify as something. They are labeled as b'chlal brach. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, and likewise, he disagrees with the money point. Ksafim avid bu iska, that also is considered b'chlal bracha. You can't leave that out. That's something you can, invest and earn from. So that is considered b'chlal bracha. So he disqualifies money. He disqualifies predes. But we have our answer. The reason why the Torah mentions specifically Tzoyin Goyim Yaakov, to give you that formula. You need to give him something which has the ability to multiply, to increase, something which represents abundance and baracha. Now, still, why does the Torah have to mention all three examples? Tzoyin Goyim Yaakov. Why not just mention one, which will pretty much send us the message that bracha is required? The tzricha, they all three need it. The ikas of Rachman tzoyin, if only tzoyin, havamina, I would say balechaim in. You can give him livestock, gedul karkelei, but not something which is produced off the ground. Kas of Rachman goyren, that's why we add goyren. The ikas of goyren, if you only mentioned that, havamina, I would say, well, only something which grows off the ground. Gedul karke in, that can be given balechaim le, but not animals. Kas of Rachman tzoyin, that's why we need the second item as well. Tzoyin and goyren, each one teaches you a different aspect. Well, what about the third item mentioned? Yaakov Lamali, why even mention that? Wine, grapes. It's pretty much a repetition. The answer is Lamar Lamutik Safin. According to Rabbi Shimon, it's coming to exclude money. That cannot be given. Lamar Lamutik Predes, according to the other Shita Rabbi Elazar, the reason why the Torah mentions Yaakov is to tell you, look, don't include everything. Even though the pasuk does mention Asher Beirach Hashem Lekecha, which pretty much brings everything into the fold. And even though it does say Tzoyin v'Goyrim, I would say, well, B'chalal bracha, well, even money or even predes, these things have an aspect of bracha, as we just said. Ksafim can be invested and can give you some, income as well. Predes have their own way of providing bracha. So there is a limited aspect of bracha inherent within ksafim and predes as well. So had the Torah only said tzoyin and goyren, I would say, well, it has to have some aspect, some potential for bracha, but these qualify as well. That's why the Torah adds Yaakov. No. We're limiting it even further. We exclude ksafim perhaps. We exclude predes because they're not fully representative of the concept of bracha. Tanu Rabbanan. So speaking about the pasuk of bracha, Asher berachach Hashem lekecha. Provide, give. Asher berachach Hashem lekecha, in accordance with the bracha that Hashem gave you. So perhaps it's dependent on you experiencing bracha during the Eved's tenure. So if he brought you a blessing, he brought you bracha, he deserves it. Otherwise not. Perhaps, right? Perhaps I would say, if you can, discern, there's a visible, tangible bracha and success which you've experienced as a result of the Eved being with you. If the Eved helps you increase your assets, manikim loy, then he gets the ha'anaka. What about loy nizbarach b'ayis b'glaloi? Ein manikim loy. Perhaps there he doesn't deserve it. Pasuk says, look, in concept, you're giving him because of what he did, but hanik tanik mikol makim. Hanik tanik, that's a double lashon. In any case, he deserves the ha'anaka. Don't be picky. So why does the Torah mention the concept of bracha? If you see that you've experienced, bracha on account of this Eved really helped you out, then, you can just add to those amounts that we mentioned before. But otherwise, at least, for a bare minimum, we have those numbers 15 or 30 or 50, but, that's the bottom number, which can always be increased. Rabbi Lezer ben Azari, no, devarim kichsavan. The Torah meant it literally. Nisbarach bayis beglole manikim loy, loy nisbarach bayis beglole ein manikim loy. If he bought bracha, okay, otherwise he doesn't get anything. So why does the Torah repeat itself? Hanik tanik. Well, dibra Torah klashim liadam. That's the manner of speech, and the Torah models the way people speak. So it's not alluding to any special chiddush. Okay, so let's just summarize the sugi of ha'anaka, which we just concluded. So when the Eved Ivri departs, on account of 6 years being up, on account of Yovel, whatever. Same with the Amma Ivriya, right? So you give them the ha'anaka, which is basically a goodbye gesture. He came, he worked, he was loyal to you. Give him something for the road. What is the amount required? What is the minimum amount? We have 3 shitas. Is it 15? Is it 30? Is it 50 sela? But that's the bare minimum. You can always go up. And in fact, Tanakama says, whether or not you experience bracha during his presence, you give him that bare minimum. But otherwise, if you've seen some tangible bracha, you give him even more. Rabbi Yehuda says, no. There's no bracha, don't give him anything. Now, what type of materials can you give him? Something which represents the concept of bracha, embodies bracha, something which increases, which grows, and multiplies. You give him animal, you give him produce, as opposed to ksafim or predes, depending on the shitais, they don't qualify. Continues the Gemara. Let's move on to the next sugya. Tanu Rabbana, we learned in the Brisa. Eved ivri eved esabeh. Ve'enoi eved esabas. So we have an Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave. It's within his 6-year term, right? So, let's say it's 3 years running. The master passes away, so he gets transferred to the master's son. That's the halacha, but not to his daughter. Eved Amma Ivri, Eino Eved es lo yisabenu esabas, by the Jewish maidservant. It's either the original owner or nothing, or she goes back home. She doesn't get transferred to any other family member, whether it's son or daughter. Hanirtza, if the Eved has completed his 6-year term and he chose to stay on longer, and his ears was pierced, etc., he stays on until Yovel. Or Vanimka Levid Kechavim, if one was sold to a guy, in that case, if the original owner is no longer here, Eino Eved lo yisab ben lo yisabas, he doesn't get transferred to anybody. Amamar. Let's go back and review the halach. Eved Ivri, Eved esaben, ve'eino Eved esabas. Eved Ivri within the 6-year term, no owner, he goes down to the son, but not to the daughter. Now, how do we know this is true? Tanu Rabbana, we went to the Brisa. V'avad chashei shanim, he will serve you for 6 years. Avad cha, it's personal to you. L'cha v'lo liyayiresh. So it's specific to you, to the owner, but you can't transfer him to another relative who's yirish you, a daughter or a brother. But a son is different. The son sort of carries over. He takes over for the father. It's like a sort of it's an uninterrupted, sort of chain. But another relative, another Yerush, he doesn't go over to them. Ato Emer. So you're suggesting, L'cha means L'cha v'lo Yerush. But maybe not. Einoi Ella. Maybe it means L'cha v'lo ben. He's bound to serve you, the father, but not the son. So let's say the father passes away, he doesn't go to the son. No. Because when the pasuk says Sheishanim Ya'avoid, he will have to serve, he has to work for 6 years. Here the pasuk doesn't say Vavatcha. It's not specific to the original owner. He has to serve out his 6-year term. Hari Leben Omer, that's indicating to us that even if the father is no longer here, he serves the son, he continues, and he finishes his 6-year term. So what's the other pasuk telling us? That it's only specific, it's personal to the owner. That he must serve the owner, but not the Yerush. So basically, we're including the son, but not the Yerush. Asks the Gemara, who says? Ma rois. Who told you, L'Rabbi Sesaben, to bring in the son, and to leave out the brother? Answers the Gemara, yeah, a son takes over for his father. It's a totally different dynamic. Marbani Saben, you know why I choose to include the son and treat him as just a carryover of the father? Sheken kam tachas aviv liyado l'stei. Because you see, we do find that at certain times a son steps directly into his father's shoes. We find 2 examples, 2 cases of such. First of all, liyado. This is yud, which we discussed many times. A fellow who owned an Amma Ha'ivriya, a Jewish maidservant, now decides to marry her. That's called the yud process, which either he can do or he can give it to his son to carry out. So the Torah gives them an option, either father or son. So we see that son is basically taking over for his father. That's one example. It's another example. Rashi brings in great detail. We have a person who was Magdish a field. He gave away his property to Hegdish. So if he doesn't, unless he goes ahead and he redeems it, the Hegdish can now go sell it off. And let's say, somebody comes along, buys the field. What happens to the field? He holds on to it until Yovel, in which case it's distributed to the Kohanim. But let's say the former owner himself did not redeem the field from Hegdish, rather his son did so. We treat him like the father, as though he was the owner himself, in which case, it's not like just a random person who purchased the field from Hegdish, who will then have to give it up come Yovel and have it distributed to the Kohanim. No. Son is like the father, he's pretty much like treated like the owner himself, in which case when he buys it, it's like he redeemed it, like he took it back, in which case he keeps it for all time. So basically we find examples where the Torah treats a son exactly like his father. He's a carryover. He's a takeover of the father. Okay, so knowing that, we say here as well that the Eved Ivri will be transferred to his son. If a father passed away during the 6-year term, he goes over to the son. As opposed to another type of Yerush, for example, a brother. No, the Eved doesn't go to the brother. Son is a carryover. Son takes over the father, as opposed to the brother. 1 second, Adrab. If anything, we find that brother, in a way, is more similar to his brother. Adrab, Mar Bani Yisa'ach. Let's include the brother. Shekein kam tachas aviv achiv liyibum. Right? Who performs yibum? Brother. The whole point is to take over, to pick up where his departed brother left off. So we find that a brother has that connection. So why do we prefer son over brother? If anything, brother has an advantage over son. No, says the Gemara. Let's look at it a bit closer. What is Yibum? What is Yibum based on? When there's no son, then there's a brother to come in and come on and take over, right? The whole point of Yibum is fellow passed away without any children to take him over, so who's second choice? Brother will come along and do the yibum to take over for his departed brother. But if there was a son to this father who passed away, there's no yibum. So son preempts yibum. Apparently, who stands higher? Who's closer? Son. Okay, so based on that, we say, in our story as well, the Eved goes over to the son, but not to the brother. Asks the Gemara, why do we need this whole back and forth? So you've come to this conclusion. You prefer the son because of this knockoff. He knocked off the brother, within the Yibum story, we find that son preempts brother, right? Because of this pircha. But if not for this, factor, what would I say? Ach adif, I would perhaps say brother stands higher than son in terms of his, ability to take over. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? In any case, it's 2 against 1. Son has 2 factors in his favor, as opposed to the brother, who would at most only have 1 factor. Meaning, even if we leave the Yibum factor in place, we give it to the brother. We don't preempt the factor based on, right? We give it to him. So he only has 1 thing going for him, Yibum, which indicates his ability to take over for his brother. But son has 2 factors in his favor, Yiyud and Stei Achuzah. So in any case, it's pretty clear that son stands higher than brother. Answers the Gemara, it's not so simple. You know why? Stei Achuzah nami mahipircha de kanafkale latana. Because in reality, there are really only 2 things that are absolute and known to us in terms of the ability to take over. One is brother regarding Yibum, and one is Yud regarding the son. Those are 2 absolute clear factors. Those are psukim, right? We know that. But in terms of the Stei Achuzah factor, that wasn't so clear. Meaning we empowered the son. We treated him as a takeover, as a hemshech, as though he's continuing for his father. But we don't really have a pasuk for that. The reason why the Gemara in Erechim concludes that the son has that privilege, because we find that the son identifies closer with his father than his father's brother identifies with his father. Why? Because Yiyud is something that the son can do, right? That indicates a closeness to his father. He's taking over for his father, and although we have the Yibum factor, which applies to the brother, right? So it's basically 1 against 1. So when it came to Stei Achuzah, we weren't sure really. We weren't really sure who's closer. Meaning, the whole point of Stei Achuzah was that the son redeemed the field from the Hekdesh. We treat him as though he was really the owner, because he's pretty much taking over for his father. Who says maybe we give that right to the brother of the father, of the former owner, right? So we sort of was a toss-up, right? So the Gemara in Erechim works through this whole back and forth. And says, 1 second, let's analyze the son versus the brother in terms of their closeness, their relationship with the owner of the field. So son has the Yiyud advantage, and the brother has the Yibum advantage. So it's pretty much a toss-up in terms of to whom to grant this Stei Achuzah right, to treat him as though he's taking over for the former owner. Who is it? The son because of Yud, or the brother because of Yibum? Right, so we weren't sure. Stei Achuzah nami mahipircha de kanafkale latana. So the Tana there concludes that when it comes to Stei Achuzah as well, we give it to the son. Son is closer than the brother. Why? Although son only has Yud and brother has Yibum, so it's 1 against 1, because of this very response. Yibum is a non-factor when there is a son here. So son really stands higher than brother. Klum yesh Yibum el makom she'ein ben. The reason for Yibum is because there's no son, but there's a son, there's no Yibum. So when there is a son, a brother is not a player, basically. So that provided the son with this additional ability to take over for his father regarding Stei Achuzah, right? Which gave us 2 factors for his son, as opposed to 1 factor, Yibum, for the brother. And, that concludes the Gemara there. So bottom line is, we had a question. When it comes to Eved Ivri, who takes priority? Who's closer, son or brother, right? We know that he's going to move on to somebody. right? The owner dies, so we decide his son is in and brother is out, right? The son is around, he goes to the son, but if there's a brother around, there's no son, so he doesn't go to the brother. Brother can't make that continuation. Right? So we said why? Because although son has some connection, yiyud, but on the other hand, there's a factor of yibum, which the brother has over the son. So at this point, we couldn't say, well, 1 second. Son has another factor going for him. He has de'achuzah, because de'achuzah wasn't really a proven halacha yet. It wasn't. There's no pasuk to say that his son is considered a hemshech, a continuation. Truth is that the Gemara in Erechon is not sure who gets that ability to take over. Is it son because of Yud or brother because of the Yibum connection? That's why we need this counterclaim to undo the Yibum factor. 1 second, Yibum, you're only there because there's no son. So by its very essence, Yibum indicates that you're just secondary to the son. So having established that as a and having established that and allowed us to revisit the brother's connection or lack of to his brother versus the son. So based on that, we say 1 second. When it comes to Eved, son takes priority. When it comes to Ste'achuzah, son takes priority. The only thing going for the brother is the Yibum, which isn't really a factor relative to the son, because as we said, the whole point of Yibum was there's no son. So bottom line is, an Eved Ivri, he's working and his term is not yet up. His master passes away. If there's a son around, he moves on to the son. But otherwise, he doesn't go to any other relative. As opposed to Amma Ivriya, says the Gemara, a maidservant, it's either the buyer himself or that's it, or she goes back home. Eino Ivedes lo Isaben lo Isabas. She doesn't get transferred to any other family member. Menan Amili, how do I know? Amar Rabbi Pada, the Makro, the Pasuk says, this is by the Eved Nirtza. Va'afal Amascha Tasik Kain. So the Pasuk makes that reference to the Amma Ivriya as well. We connect it to Ikisha Kasal and Nirtza. We connect her to the Nirtza. Ma Nirtza. Eino Yoivid lo Yisaben was Habas. Just like by the Nirtza, he sticks with his original master. He doesn't get transferred to anybody else. As Rashi brings, the pasuk says Avadoi, right? Avadoi, it's specific to him. Loi, right? Only to him. Av Amavriya, same thing with the maid servant. Eino Yivedes lo Yisaben was Habas. He doesn't get transferred to any other family member. Asks the Gemara, V'haila Moscha Tasa Kein Lachi De'asa. This pasuk that you referenced, is it coming for this? It's needed for something else. Look at this Sanya. Listen to this brayse. Lahanik. The pasuk they were speaking about giving the hanaka. So it's coming to teach us that just like the nirtza gets hanaka on his way out, likewise the amma. Lahanik. You're suggesting that it's coming for that. But maybe it's coming to tell you that just like you pierce the Eved's ear, you'll do it to the maidservant in a similar circumstance. Perhaps that's what the connection is for. No, but the pasuk says, "Vim Omar Yemer HaEved." He declares his willingness to stay on. He opts to extend his term. HaEved is telling you it only applies to a man. It doesn't apply to the maidservant. She can't become a niritza. Haritzia Omar. So that pretty much excludes ritzia. Hamani Mekayim Afal Maschal Tasikein. So what's the pasuk then comparing the niritza to the amma? Lahanik, to tell you that hanaka is provided to the amma as well. So it's needed for that. It's not the pasuk is not free to teach us the halacha that we tried to learn, which was that just like the nirtza never gets transferred to another family member, likewise the amma, it's unavailable for that. Im Kain, says the Gemara, no. The actual same pasuk can be teaching us both halachas. In Kain nichtav kro la moscha. Kain. It's only coming to teach you that the Ummah doesn't get transferred to another member, just like the Nirtza. It would say Vaf la moscha Kain. My tasa. Why add the word tasa? Oh, shamas min otarti. That's coming to teach you the other halacha as well for ha'anaka. So again, an ordinary Eved Ivri within his 6-year term, Adin passes away, gets transferred to a son, but only a son. Amma, no transferring. Likewise, a nirtza, hanirtza, vanimka levit kichavim, eino Eved lo yisabeno yisabas, no transferring there as well. Why? Says the Gemara, nirtza, because the pasuk says so. Dichsiv ratza doineves aznoi b'martzea v'avodoi. Loilam, he only serves the original owner, v'lo yisabein, v'lo yisabas. Same thing with the Nimkalev Gechavim. 9, how do we know that? Amar Chizkiya, Amar Kroa, V'chisha, V'imkineyu. When they go and they bail him out, they calculate with his owner, with his koine, with the fellow who purchased him, because he's still serving him. But he never goes on to a relative, a Yerush of his Goyish master. Either it's the original owner or he's free to go. Amar Rava. On the topic of a Yerush, of an owner who happens to be a non-Jew, that sort of arouses a question. Because there is a Yerush by a guy. Amar Rabbi, yeah. We learn from this very pasuk that even a guy inherits his properties to his descendants. Tvar Torah minat Torah, we say that a Ovid Kechavim Yerush Esafif. A non-Jewish child inherits his father's properties minat Torah. Based on this pasuk, Shenama v'chishavim kaneu, v'loim yerush kaneu. Pasuk says you reckon with the buyer, not with his children. Mechlal dis le'yerushim. Apparently, he has children that are yerushim. Otherwise, why does the pasuk have to preempt them? They take him over. Okay, so once we're on this topic, we have a couple more details here. So, an Ovid Kechavim yerush his father, minat Torah. What about a ger? Is a ger yerush his father, who's still a guy? Ger as a Ovid Kechavim einoi midivrei Torah. Minat Torah is not yerushim because, as Rashi says, he no longer identifies with him. He's a newborn, recreated entity. Ela midivrei sefer midrabanan. He is yerush his father, even though his father is a guy. This nan, the pasuk says, the Mishnah says like this. This Mishnah will prove to us that his yerusha is only midrabanan. How? Listen to this. Geir of Ovid Kechavim. Shiyarshu Savim Ovid Kechavim. You have a father and Ovid Kechavim. He has 2 sons. One is a guy and one is a ger. And they both will yerush their father. And amongst his assets we have some problematic items. We have the Zara, which the ger doesn't want to know of. Right? Or he has the Ainesach, forbidden items. So how does he get around that? Does he have to take the loss? No. Ger Yochel Leim Ovid Kechavim. He can turn to his Ovid Kechavim sort of brother and say, look, Toil Ata Ovid Kechavim Ani Mois. Would you be okay taking those idols? And I'll take the money instead. Right? So father left over some money and some Ovid Zara. You take that, I'll take this. Toil Ata Yain Nesach Ani Peres. You take the wine, I'll take the fruit. That's fine. Because Minat Torah, he's not really a Yerush. If he was, then 50% of everything belongs to each party. You can't exchange it, because then you'll be better. You're selling Avodah Zarah, you're selling Yainesa. You can't benefit from these items. So apparently, it's not really his. The ger is not really a yerush. So therefore, it allows for this type of arrangement. But this is all good if he hadn't yet taken possession of those items. Mishabol or Rishus ger, if the ger already took hold of those items, also then he can't do this exchange, because then it's really his already. He's swapping it and he's getting hana. Oh, this proves our point that his yerush his father midrabanan only. Why? Because if he's yerush minat Torah, then by default he's yerush 50% of every item, and he can't exchange it anymore. Even if he hadn't yet physically taken possession of these forbidden items, he would be in trouble. Because if he takes something in exchange of his portion of the Yerusha of the forbidden items, he's receiving benefit in exchange for the Avodah Zarah that he owned. Apparently, Minat Torah is not a Yerush, it's only with the Rabbanon. Why do the Rabbanon give him this privilege to even be Yerush's father? We're concerned about generating, chas v'shalom, a regret, a feeling of regret in his heart. Gzeiro David Rabbanon. Rabbanon made a gzeiro. Basically, they gave him this right to be Yerush's father, Shem Yachzol L'Suri, because he might be tempted to go back to his old life, his old ways. Rashi says, Mishuma Maynai, in order to, get this inheritance. So we want to protect him from this temptation. And we say, look, even though halachically speaking, you're not really entitled, but get your 50% of the Yerusha. Tani Nam Yahu, we find the same in the Brisa. But Medvam Amurim Kishe Yerushu. When is this, swap allowed? When it's a Yerusha, as we explained, because he wasn't really kind of the item. Aval Kishe Nishtatfu Aser, but suppose they, a Yisrael and a Goy happen to be partners and they own all these items. They can't just go and swap things because in effect he's taking something which is partially his and swapping it for something else. You're not allowed to benefit from Isser. Okay, so now we know that a ger is Yerush's father only with the Rabbanim. What about a Ovid Kichavim es ger? Father was a ger, son was not. Or v'ager es ger. Both father and son converted. In these cases, we say Einoy. There's no Yerusha at all. Loy midivrei Torah, v'loy midivrei Seifrim. There's no Yerusha at all. Because the whole concern of perhaps reverting back to being a guy, that's only applicable in the previous case where his father was a guy. So, you might be tempted to go back and join the ranks in order to receive the inheritance. But here, it's not applicable because the father is already a ger. So, the son turning back a guy won't help anybody, right? It's not going to benefit him. So, bottom line is, there's no Yerusha at all. There's non love of moiz min a ger. Mishnah says, let's say a person borrowed from a ger. Shin is gairu ban of imay, a ger who happened to convert together with all his kids. So father and son are both gerim. It comes time to repay. There's no father. Lo yachshel lebanav. So even though typically when a father passes away you repay the kids, but not in this case. Because halachically there's no relation between father and son. And even if he decided to return it, there's no point. Ein ruach chachamim noichemenu. Chacham aren't really pleased, meaning nobody's complimenting him. He doesn't get a brownie point for it. There's no reason for it. Really? Vatanya, but the Brisa says it is preferred. It is recommended. Ruach chachamim noichemenu. Chacham are pleased with this fellow who repays even though he wasn't obligated to. Like Kasha, the answer is like this. It all depends on the situation. Kanshay rasa v'ligdasa b'shalei b'kedusha. The first case where we say there's no need to repay, there's no point, is speaking where hayrase v'ligdasa was shalei b'kedusha. Basically, this child was conceived, that's hayrase, and he was born shalei b'kedusha, meaning before parents turned Jewish. So there's no relation, there's no familial relation, there's no Yerusha, there's no reason to repay the child. V'kan, but in the second case, where it is recommended, is speaking sheirasa shlei b'kedusha, although he was conceived while parents were still non-Jewish, but v'leidasa b'kedusha, he was born after the fact, after the father was mizgayer. So Rashi on the top line explains like this: v'leidasa b'kedusha, hechad shel ben b'kedusha. In this case, michlaf b'Yisrael gomer. He's so close to a regular Yisrael, it appears like he's an ordinary Yisrael, and therefore we want the fellow to repay the loan. Other Rishonim seem to learn that literally he's a Yisrael gomer in this case because he was born b'kedusha, so he's deserving of the repayment for his father's loan because he's a Yerush of his father. Okay, here comes another source for the first halacha. Rav Chia bar Aben Amar Rabbi Yechon. How do I know that in a guy Ovid Kichavim is Yerush esav min haTorah, Dvar Torah, right? Ovid Kichavim inherits his father, the guy min haTorah. Shenam d'chsev ki Yerusha nasat le'esav nasat es har seir. Pasuk says that I've given Esav, a grandson of Avram Avinu, I gave him the har seir. So even though he was Esav, he's Yerush. Says the Gemara. But V'dilma Yisrael Mumar Shani, maybe he wasn't really classified as Noib Kechavim, he was Yisrael who was strayed. Maybe that's a different has a different status. Elomei hacha, we have another pasuk. Kilivnei loit nasatias or Yerusha. I gave the children of Loit or as a Yerusha. So in that case, we certainly treat them as Avid Kechavim. And they're not children of Avram Avinu. They don't belong to Klal Yisrael. So in this case, for sure, provides a source for the idea that a goy is Yerush's father, the goy. Asks the Gemara, Rav Chia bar Avin, my time we have this source and we have the other source, right? That an Eved sold to a goy can be bailed out by calculating the time remaining. So you only do it with the original owner, not with his children. So it's a right that there are children that are Yerush. Why didn't Rav Chia bar Avin go with that drasha? Rav Chia bar Avin, my time Rava miksiv v'chushavim koineu v'loim yerush koineu. Does the pasuk then speak about? Does the pasuk make a direct reference to Yerushim? The pasuk speaking about the owner. Who says that? Is there any reference to the presence or lack of presence of Yerushim? So it doesn't provide anything for our. For Rava, my time Rav Chia bar Avin. Why didn't Rava choose Rav Chia bar Avin's drasha, where we find that the children of Loit were Yerush their father? Well, he says that doesn't really provide much for us. Mishum kvoided Avram Shiny. Maybe standard procedure is that a guy is not Yerush's father, but they were different because they were nephews of Avram Avinu. So because of Avram Avinu's kavod, Hashem gives them this inheritance, but it's not really halachically mandated. It doesn't really provide a source for the topic at hand. Okay, so in summation, let's go back to the Eved Ivri, who was chala. He didn't really manage to work all 6 years. Well, if he was doing at least something, then it's okay. But otherwise, he has a maximum of 3 years of vacation. If he was chala 3 years, okay. Otherwise, he's got to be mashlam. Okay, the Eved or the Amma on their way out deserve the ha'anaka, kasha beracha, Hashem alekecha. We give them a certain amount of, severance pay to, money for the road. We have 3 shittas. Is it 15? Is it 30? Is it 50? We give them only things which are bracha al bracha. According to some shittas, he only deserves it if there was bracha in the house. Then we proceeded to the topic of the ben and the bas. So the Eved Ivri or the Amma Ivriya, the Eved Ivri, whose owner passed away, can be transferred to the son, but the son only, not to anybody else. And we explained that the son has that priority, that preference. He takes over for his father here and elsewhere. The Amma Ivriya does not get any transfer to son or daughter or relative, nor the Nirtza or Nimka Le'eved Kechavim. And then that took us into the discussion about Yerusha, which Yerusha is Minat Torah, which is Midrabanan, in which case Yerusha doesn't apply at all. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.